Greetings and welcome to the Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the World Championships of Warhammer for 2025. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video if you found it useful and helpful. Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate code at Games, an affiliate discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But let's get on with today's video. So yeah, I was actually going to originally do this as a vlog, and stuff happened at the event where I've had to completely change how I'm doing this video, because there was some contentious stuff that happened at the event. So I've actually taken time to actually script this video, which normally I don't really do with scripting. It's more like just internalizing. And I've had to ask a lot of friends for advice and tips, because I want this to be like a balanced video, kind of like, because there was some contentious stuff, and I want to approach it in a balanced way, because the main thing I want this video to be about is feedback and what Games Workshop can learn from the event, because flat out I did not enjoy my time at the World Championships of Warhammer. So yeah, let's get into it. So something's happened in my pod game, so one of my pod games. So because of what happened, I can't talk about my pod games fully, which is quite disappointing, because generally I had a really good time in pods. I played a lot of amazing people, but I did have one really bad game. Now, to preface this, I did have a really bad experience with one player, and the problem is that player cannot defend themselves because it's my video, right? They're not here. And also I'm still biased, because obviously I played in the game, I was upset, you know. It has impacted my overall event experience because of, well, I'll get into it later. So like, still very biased, right? Even though I'm trying to take a balanced take, and obviously it doesn't look great when you're saying someone did stuff really badly, but you know, you can't really reference them, right? There's always that underlying element of bias, which is what I'm trying to get out of the way first, to just not go like, you know, you feel free to disagree with me, because this is just mainly my point of view. And throughout this, I won't be naming the player or their faction, because, you know, it's still not fair calling them out, because even though their sportsmanship wasn't great, and I personally believe they cheated, it's still just my point of view, and obviously the event actually hasn't taken a stance on what happened. So, yeah, I was playing one game, and it's a complicated situation. Prior to this game, we found out who I was paired into, and then I was like, oh, I'll ask my friend who played them, and I'll go like, you know, just, do I need to watch out for anything? I do this for anyone I'm like, haven't heard before, just like, you know, just to get some idea, like in terms of like maybe how they played, what I can do to win or better, because basically if I won this game, there was a chance I could still make it into top 16. So I was speaking to my friend, and then they were like, oh dude, you need to like, you need to record everything, and also you need to take like a picture of the board state, and you're probably going to get put on a chess clock. And I was like, what do you mean? And like, they told me, well, they'd beaten this player, the game wasn't great, it went to time, and then that my friend had won. They went to lunch, thought everything was okay, got called in by the judges because their opponent was now disagreeing over their score. So my friend came back from lunch, mid-lunch, and then was told that his opponent said they had an agreement during the game and something was up, but basically instead of losing, they should have had a draw. But when they went to the board state, everything was packed up, and effectively the judges said, no, it's too late. Whatever was submitted is now too late to contest. Should have, you know, brought up at the time instead of now, and then they settled it. But my friend was incredibly shocked, because he was like, there was no sign of this. Like, he'd won by one, went away for lunch, thought everything was fine, and then all of a sudden gets called by the judges, comes to the table, and then has to kind of like almost start not a fight, but a disagreement over something that didn't really happen in game. But that's why the TOs never made that call. But then I also found out there was another issue with another opponent he had played, who I do know, and I've played before, where they got to the end of the game, there was a disagreement of, well, the person I know had won by 2 points, and then that other opponent had lost by 2 points. There was a disagreement over the score because it was related to steel intelligence, so picking up markers. And according to the person I know, the opponent picked them up turning point 4, but then at the end of the game realized they lost by 2 points because they'd only got 4 points for controlling 3 at the end of turning point 4. Then said no, I was controlling them from turning point 2, which was conveniently the 2 points they needed to go up to 6 points and get a third from the primary. But then my friend, like, who I know, was saying like, no, there was no way you could have physically scored them because you were too far away and couldn't physically contest or control them until turning point 4. But unfortunately, they'd left it too late in terms of their disagreement. So by the time they called over a judge, it was very contentious. And because they'd left it late as a call, the judge then went with the opponent, giving him the extra 2 points, which then gave him the third point to win the game. And also told me the same thing, that I need to record everything and write stuff down. So immediately I was like, what's going on? Okay, I thought that was just a loss, and then that was just a fine win. I didn't know any of this. So I went to the judges. I said like, yeah, so I'm not really comfortable about my opponent from what I've heard. And I would personally like a judge around the table and just to like rule out any issues, just us put on the clock immediately, like, you know, that kind of thing. And then they told us judges would be around if needed and that we could use the clock if we want, but it wouldn't be taken at face value in terms of they will judge if they need to use it later in the game, but they would probably just put us on a different clock when they wanted to, which is all covered in the pack in terms of the clock rules. So I was like, okay, that's quite concerning. And they were like, I did bring up the other issues, but then I was like, fine, okay, cool. That's the judge's response. I wasn't super happy with it. I told them that, but they said it'd be fine, just go into your game. Now, when I was speaking to friends, like a good thing to point out, it is kind of bad going into a game with pre-bias. So already I was like, technically you could have argued the people I knew kind of soured my vision of this guy, like going into the game. But the way I'd preface it is, they're very good players. They would never do anything underhanded. Like, they're great people, and they were just trying to look out for me. I don't think they were trying to like maliciously malign my opponent. They were just like, they did not enjoy those games. One of them won, one of them lost. So it's not like, you know, they both lost and they were trying to malign this player. But it's not a good look going into the game when I have to take preparations because of my being warned by my opponents, and when raising concerns to the judges, they're just kind of like, well, you just have to play a game and see how it goes. So going into the game, it was fine. Turning point 1, there was like no issues. It was just establishing where stuff was, and I was like, okay, fine, that's cool. You want your heavy barricade there just so that can fit. That's fine. No issues, like playing fine. We're like an hour and a half in to turn 1, and like we just go into turn 2, and the judges come around and put us on a clock. So because they're like, you know, we're way behind on milestones because we have 3 hours to finish the game, and we're only at turning point 2 an hour and a half in. I'm like, that's fine. We both get an hour and a half on the clock. Now our clock's on. I'm like, okay. But then going into turn 2 and 3 onwards, there's a lot of nudging. So my opponent has put an operative there and then wants to get someone else there. So I'm like, okay, that's fine that you want to get there, but the way you've put that in, you have to phase. Like, your model physically can't fit there. So then we go back and forth over this, and then they leave the model in the place where it started, where they wanted it to be. And I was like, and they're like, okay, I'll activate someone else. And I was like, no, you've put the model where you want it to be, but it hasn't activated yet. You've put it like 2 inches out. And they're like, what do you mean? That's where it is. It's like, no, you've put it 2 inches out. If you put it 2 inches back, it's behind the heavy cover instead of the building. You said you wanted to be there. So then it was just like lots of stuff like that, trying to establish where operatives were. There was an instance where I do have to raise where, like, normally this operative can't fit under like the 2 Volcus buildings whatsoever. And I was like, oh, you're going to reposition that model under there? And they were like, oh yes. And I was like, but you know that model can't fit under there. And then they were like, oh yeah, but I've modeled it so they can. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, the issue is, because the tournament never established anything like this, and with a prior ruling made about their team, I was like, I'm not going to raise this. would be just sounding pace. I was like, fine. They couldn't fit fully under the building, but they were basically like 2.5 inches away from the door. Then it got more contentious at the end of the game because like going into turning point 4, at that point my opponent had like 20 minutes left on the clock and I had an hour and 10, something like that. So we were playing into it. I was in the lead, but it was like I had to police a lot of positioning because once again, as I said, my opponent would either nudge stuff, either intentionally or unintentionally, and then just, or like establish where they want to go and then leave the model where he wanted to go before moving them. And I was like, no, it has to come back. So imagine I'm trying to police my opponent. I'm trying to make sure they're not cheating. I have to like question a lot of moves. So it's like, I'm trying to focus on my own game, but focus on theirs. And like the game has already gone over 3 hours by this point. Like I'm quite delayed in my game and I'm not happy because like, I'm having to like police my opponent, but like we've run over time. Like I up front, I hate the 3-hour rounds. I think the 3 hours are ridiculous. And we're like 3 hours and 10 minutes, 20 minutes into the game. It's like crazy. So then I'm getting frustrated. The judges can tell. And then, because I was like to one of the judges, like, look, my opponent has like 10 minutes left on the clock. What happens when they run out? And they're like, oh, don't worry about when you run out. It's just fine. We'll decide, but you'll probably just get more time. We want you to finish the game. And I was like, oh, but he's literally taken like an hour and 20 minutes, and I still have over an hour left on the clock. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. So I was getting more annoyed because like there were more arguments about positioning and stuff. And then another judge came over and started watching our game. Because we were one of the few games overrunning. And then what happened was my opponent had climbed and taken a shot at one of my operatives. But then at the time I was like, I don't think you can do that because where you're climbing from that side of the building, you're 5 inches tall and like you're not next to the building. You would have to dash, then climb. And that would be like, because the climb would take 5 inches and because you're on a bigger than an inch base, you wouldn't be able to clear your base from that side. So what you'd actually have to do is dash around, then climb for the side that's only 4 inches up. But I missed that because I was trying to police everything else. So got a kill, which is like fine. And then like, there's a lot of like back and forth arguing. I have forgotten a lot about it because I was getting quite triggered during the game. And then this was really bizarre because it happened during their last activation. So they were out of models to activate and I was like, okay, cool, now I can just do whatever I want. Then my opponent's like, okay, I'm gonna activate my leader, I'm gonna flip them from expended to ready and then move them away. Like I'm gonna activate my leader, like flipping them, their order from expended to ready. And I go like, what are you doing? You've activated that model as your second activation, turning point 4. And I was like, no, I haven't activated yet, I'm flipping it to ready now. And then the judge goes, no, you have flipped that operative from engaged to ready and are now trying to activate them. So we had to like, and then my opponent was like, no, I'm going to activate my leader and tried moving him. So the judge was like, no, leave your leader there. We're going to talk this scenario out. So like, obviously I'd used my delay ploy to like activate the node because I was playing Canoptic Circle. Like we literally physically counted out for him. There was no way he could have activated his leader again. Like he had already taken the set amount of activations. And the problem is this took about 5 minutes to clear up. And then my opponent was like, oh, okay. And it was just like, it was so bizarre because he was 100% adamant. He was convinced he could activate this operative. And if a judge wasn't there, he would have kept on activating. Like he even activated in front of the judge, and it took me and the judge showing the opponent how they physically had activated their model and couldn't activate them anymore. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I tried to brush off as nothing happened. And I was just like, what is going on? This is bizarre. This is ridiculous behavior. And then we play out. The weirdest thing is, so throughout the time we're on the clock, my opponent isn't really paying attention to the clock and like actively calms down in terms of like not really focusing on the clock when one of the judges tell them like, oh, if you run out of time, it's fine, we'll just give you some more. So with the new judge over, they're like, no, you guys had an hour and a half each on the clock. When you run out of time, all you can do is like automatic actions like a standard clock. And all of a sudden, my opponent is like fully aware of how the clock works. It gets really weird. So like they activate an operative, I go to me, okay, like, okay, I'm gonna activate my comms. I'm just gonna move it over there, give someone +1 APR and pass over to you. And then they're like, cool, I'm gonna activate my model, flips the time to me because they have about like like a minute left. And then I go like, whoa, what are you doing? I flick it back to them and they're like, no, 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 please don't touch my clock, please don't interfere with my time. And then flips it to me. So then the judge flips it back to them because he's trying to counteract. And he was like, no, John is correct here. You need to fully complete your activation / counteraction on your own time, including with the order flips, before you flip it back to your opponent. Now I'm telling you this on your time, and you cannot just activate and say like, I'm gonna do my action, then flip it back to your time. Now you have run out of time, and I've told this on your time, because you were trying to use your time incorrectly and trying to use your opponent's time to activate. And then like, played it out. I thought I had gotten the win, but turns out, gotten a draw, and I was like, okay, you know what, it's fine. Like, I'm now on like 2 draws and a loss, which basically stops me getting into top 16, but it is what it is, you know? And then we're calculating out, and it's like, during that 10-minute post-game stuff, my opponent is just trying to find ways to win. And because we were playing data, so you can like upload and then send. He was trying to argue that because he sent 1 point and 2 points in turning point 4, that he gets an extra VP, which would have given him enough points to win. And I was like, no, you only get points for that during turning point 2 and 3, because the judge has already gone by now. And he was like, no, 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 yeah, but I did it. And I was like, okay, here's the card. So I'll read the card. It says, you only get an extra point for uploading if you do it during turning point 2 and 3. It's like, no, 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 I still did it turning point 4, so I need the extra point. So I gave it to my opponent. They read it for like 3 minutes, gave it back to me, was like, okay. And I was like, cool, like, whatever. So then after the game, that's when I realized, like, way too late in the board state, because we'd already finalized by then that, once again, my opponent had done the illegal climb because he needed to dash around to the side that he couldn't climb, because what he did was that climb, shoot, smoke. But if he actually had to dash, climb, shoot, I would have basically gotten 2 kills, right? I would have gotten a kill much earlier, which would have changed the board state for me. But my issue is, I only realized that way too late. Like, this is like, I think 8 PM. By that time, it was like half an hour after we finished. And I was like, no, that is like, I should have picked that up during the game. But the issue is, I was trying to stop all the nudging, because there was lots and lots of nudging from terrain to operatives, to at one point, you know, his heavy barricade almost went on a journey at one point until we pulled it back. Like, it was pretty bad. So I went to the judges, I spoke to the players, and like the players who played him, and I went to one of the judges. I was like, look, I am not happy about that game I just played. Like, that was not fun in terms of, like, personally, I think there was an element of cheating, but even if you ignore the element of cheating, like, the sportsmanship just wasn't there. That was a horrible game to play. And, you know, 2 of the other people in our pod have had an issue. And then they were like, okay, yeah, well, the one about the loss, you know, that was just, it is. And then the other game, that player, you know, they just lost anyway. So, you know, they were just upset over losing. And I was like, so we don't think there was an issue there. And I was like, whoa, I don't know who you're talking about. I was talking about the other person who won the game. So that means now there's 4 out of 6 people in our pod who have now had an issue with this player. And they were like, well, it's fine. Like, we've dealt with it. So then I went to speak to the players who played him, because I was like, I appreciate you guys for warning me, because, like, if I wasn't prepared, I probably would have lost instead of drawing. But it's like, I would have, you know, won if it was a normal game. And then we were just upset in terms of, like, how it was handled, because we were like, this is just, like, unacceptable behavior. Because at the start of the event, they go through this spiel about, you know, how it's all about sportsmanship, how, you know, you all should be great, all this kind of stuff. And we felt, from what was outlined in the pack, all those rules were broken. Like, if you wanted to be very kind, there was just no sportsmanship there. So at best, there was no sportsmanship. At worst, it was cheating. So we went to the head judge, me and the other players in the pod that played this person, and we were like, look, we aren't happy with our experience with this player, because look, we know it does look bad, because, you know, we're coming up to you guys to, like, complain. But the issue is, look, one of us won, one of us lost, one of us drew, but the game wasn't enjoyable. We had to argue and fight for a lot of stuff that was clear in the rules. It was very hard to keep a track of the board state because it was changing so much, and it's very hard to play, especially a 3-hour plus game when you're trying to manage your own board state, but making sure your opponent is keeping the board state correct as well, because we just end up missing stuff. Like, especially when it's over 3.5 hours or 4 hours, depending on how much extra time you get, there's too much for us to track, and we feel like it wasn't handled well. So the head judge was like, look, completely agree with, like, get where you're coming from, and we'll escalate it as, like, we'll escalate it. So we're like, okay, well, we've done our part, and then we just went on. So then my friend ended up playing him the next day, and obviously I warned him. I was like, because when we were raising our complaints, we were like, look, we're generally concerned about what happens if this player goes on to win the event or makes other people have terrible experiences. Like, because regardless, it's a bad look for the game, but it's also a bad look for everyone who plays them. So when my friend comes over and asks me for advice, I'm like, look, you need to write down everything. I didn't write down the board state every turning point. You need to do that. You have to keep an eye on everything because they will nudge stuff and you're most likely going to be put on a clock. But when you, because this is what I was told, you know, as I said, take a photo of the board state at the end of turning point 4 and take a screenshot of the scores. And I was like, take a photo of every end of every turning point and then do the same at the end of the game. So I go away. My friend narrowly beats them by 1. And I was like, oh, cool. They won. And then when I talked to them, they were like, oh no, this was a horrible game. Like, if you didn't tell me to, like, just write, like, if I didn't write stuff in the board state, there was stuff I had to justify to the judges because he was arguing everything, and because I could accurately show where I'd written down what had happened each turning point, and when he was arguing stuff, because I could reference to where I'd recorded stuff, like just like board state wise, they were able to side with me instead of my opponent, because there was one issue where it was on a Vocus map, he was trying to get his operative through the door, like charged from where it was, and my friend and like the judge had measured it, and effectively they were like, yeah, you are like 2 inches out. You're out of counteractions. Like, there's no way this model can move. So you can't do that until like 2 more turning points, because it will take another turning point to get into position. Then you can charge from that door. Cool. Because they're all hiding behind this building. Like, so as the opponent, all you can see is the building. He can see everything else. So you just have to go like, okay, we've established where everything is. And then my friend was like, they had to call over a judge again later because this person was now trying to charge the operative from the door. And the opponent was like, can this model reach here? And the judge was like, well, yes, they can. But how did that model end there? Because we established the model cannot end there. So how did that model get to the door where it can now make that charge? And the opponent just couldn't answer. So they had to move it back. And that was like, there were so many instances, but that was the most memorable to me. And we were just like, this is ridiculous. Like, if he had gone on to beat my friend, he had a good chance of making it to the final. And like, I know the stream were concerned, like in terms of like, if this person made it to stream, because then it would be problematic viewing on the stream. So it was just kind of like, wow. And then I don't know what happened in the other 3 games, but that's basically what happened in the entire event. So we weren't happy. Like, everyone who played him basically wasn't happy. And we don't know what happened. We escalated it. We did everything. You know, we made a formal complaint to the judges. We complained to, well, as I said, we made a formal complaint to the head judge. It wasn't just me, it was other players as well. None of us had a great time playing this player. And as I said, at best, it's bad sportsmanship. At worst, it's cheating. Like, on whatever grade you go on. Yeah, we heard nothing from the judges. Nothing from the organizers, nothing. We don't know what happened, all right? And we distanced ourselves from it because we were like, we made our formal complaint, we made our thoughts known to the judges, that's it. We're not gonna escalate this any further. And yeah, that's the pods, really. I'll briefly go over my Saturday and Sunday, because Saturday and Sunday was great. Played 4 really nice games. So let me quickly go over those games, because I was running Canoptic Circle. So for Saturday game 1, I was into Death Watch on this really weird map. We were playing I forget what mission, energy cells. And effectively, with this map, you put the razor wire in the middle, and I went envoy. So I envoyed onto the teleporter on the right side because my opponent had used the teleporter to place his banner. So turning point 2, he kills my crawler with his plasma, and then I was like, banner time. So I teleported over because his banner was on the teleport pad, and I picked it up. So I immediately killed his tac op. Then he started denying my envoy. So oddly, we only got 2 on the tac op each, but I managed to basically, because I was controlling both objectives, win on energy cells, and then I got +2 on the kill up because I was on kill grade 3, he was on kill grade 1. Everything went fine there. That was it was an unfortunate map, and energy cells isn't great for Deathwatch, but I like the teleport pad. That was funny. Then on game 2 on Saturday, I was into Nemesis Claw. So this was, I think, transmission. Yeah, it was transmission. And then effectively what happened, I played really aggressively on my side. So turning point 2, I killed the leader, and then I killed the fearmonger, banished them both, and he barely did any damage to my crawler. And then once I did that, I basically just kind of ran through because I was able to win initiative on turning point 3, banish his Screecher, and then he had no one to threaten because the Melter was the Melter and Skin Thief were controlling the center, and his Vox Scream guy was controlling my left side. He'd done install device. So we both managed to get 6 on the tac op. I got max envoy, he got max steel intelligence. We were tied on the crit op, but I was on kill grade 4, which went up to kill grade 5. Unfortunately, he was on kill grade 0. So it was a really lovely opponent. He was from France. I always love playing the French. The French are amazing. They have so much team unity. It was really fun, but unfortunately, yeah, it was quite disadvantageous for Nemesis Claw then. Then game 3 on Saturday, I was Sunday, sorry. I was in on open into the Canoptic Mirror. So this is really interesting. I always go retrieval on the mirror, but my opponent had gone with scout enemy movement. I had tried scout enemy into the mirror, but I did not like it. I found while you could get 2 to 4 points, turning point 2 and 3, it quickly crumbles late game, but due to like pressure. So when I figured out he was running steel intelligence, scout enemy movements, so turning point 2 he maxed that, but then I had gotten the middle and my own objective with retrieval. So then I was just like, he tried to banish one of my guys and failed, so I shot him and then charged with my own banishment gun and killed him. And then he failed to kill. It was just like an interesting back and forth trade. What I learned this game, I did not realize you can heal someone and then resurrect them. That was a change from last edition. So I was actually, I let my crawler die for no reason. But I ended up winning because I got a lucky kill. I managed to like knock his other tomb crawler down to 1 wound, healed it up to 2, ran behind a door. Then I quaked the barrel in the stronghold and killed it. And then he tried to kill my crawler, which would have tied the kill up, but then he failed. He only got 1 hit, even with Ceaseless. So I managed to like live through that. And then, yeah, just won because he only managed to get 3 on the tac op. I got 4. And then on the kill op, I was on 3, he was on 1. And we tied on the crit op. So I managed to just win there. And that was, even though it was like a very strange game, I actually enjoyed it because the Canoptic Mirror is really interesting to figure out because it either ended in a draw if you both take retrieval, but it was fun. Then into game 4, I was into Deathwatch again. I was into Tesla and Little Chief, and he was really cool from Canada. I unfortunately won the best side, and then it was going to be like, because we were playing Orb. I love Orb, all of the Orbin. I was like, I was going to be a 1-point win to me just because I can just keep bouncing back the Orb. And then I was like, you know, it's my second last activation, turning point 2. Your Vox Breaker is on engage, in smoke, behind a wall in cover. I'll just take a shot. If I get lucky, I'll like ping 5 wounds. Otherwise, probably won't. So I roll 3 hits. I'm like, oh, okay, nothing's going to happen. He retains a dice, rolls a 1 and a 2, re-rolls 1 for free into a 1, and then spends a CP to re-roll the 2 into a 1. And I'm like, oh. So I knock the Vox Breaker down to 3 wounds, and I'm like, well, if I roll a 4 or more, he banishes, and I roll a 4, and he disappears, and then I dash back outside the line of sight, visibility, and I'm like, that shouldn't have happened. And my opponent was like, yeah, that shouldn't have. And then unfortunately, like the breacher killed someone, tried to take a melter shock by you know, getting a shot on my big crawler. Rolled one hit, which I saved, and then I was like, well, I'm gonna try and banish you. You are on cover, but I'm gonna get within 2. And then I roll 2 hits and 3 crits, and then he disappeared as well. And then we were like, okay, I'm just banishing everything. So this game has like dramatically changed, but it was really fun. But I banished 3 of his operatives, and he managed to max his plant banner while getting like 1 on the crit up every turn. I got 2 every turn, apart from turning point 4. And then I got 4 on my envoy because he managed to kill my envoy turning point 4. But that was really fun. So in the best of the in the worlds bracket, went undefeated and got a nice little award for that. That was fun. Those games were all great. So now I'd like to talk about the judges, because I know some people may think, oh, it's the judges' fault. It's always the judges. I think the judges actually did an amazing job all weekend. All 3 were great and were readily available, unless they were stuck on a singular table where they needed multiple judges because of judge calls. But I found the judges were very fair. I know some people were unhappy with some of the rulings made, but those are for those people to cover. But generally I had a good time with all the judges. I found they were fair, they justified stuff really well, and they did escalate our issues as appropriate. Like, as I said, we escalated our issues to the head judge, and they did raise it further. So we were like comfortable with how they handled stuff. The only issue I would say with the judges was just the inconsistent clock rules. So some judges would go like, oh, if you run out of time on the clock, we'll decide what happens next. And then some judges were like, well, if you've run out of time on the clock, you've run out of time, right? And I know clocks can be contentious because, you know, they are very clear they don't want people weaponizing the clocks, and I don't think anyone was. But it's just very confusing as a player when it's almost like, when you've got a judge actually coming up to you and say, don't worry if you run out of time, it's like, so we're just playing a 4.5 hour game when we had 3 hours? Like, if we only had 2 hours, I could understand, but we had 3 hours to finish a game, and the standard kill team game is 2 hours, right? 3 hours is 2, I don't know there were like 1 or 2 people I asked who loved the 3-hour rounds, but the major opinion is no one enjoys the 3 hours. Now I will mention, they made sure we didn't play 4 hours on the Saturday and Sunday, which was greatly appreciated, but there were games that regularly went above 3 hours to 4 hours. Some even went to 4.5. So that's the only issue, because it's just like, it's very weird. But when you read the pack, unfortunately, that's how it's decided in the pack. What the judges did was completely correct. And this is where it comes on to more, not my issue with the judges, but my issue with the pack. The pack it's very vague, and people may go like, oh, this is a Games Workshop thing. I was like, no, if I go to other Games Workshop events, like even if I go to like stuff like Warhammer World, all this kind of stuff is like clearly defined. What happens when you run out of time? What happens if you break sportsmanship? What kind of that if you're like repeatedly egregious, and how it can result you being dejected from the event? So I was reading through the Worlds pack for this. They tell you like you should be a great sportsmanship, you should aim to finish your games in time, but there's nothing covering in the pack what happens if you break those rules. There's nothing. There's no covering about if someone cheats, if someone's like super anti-sportsmanship, stuff like that, someone continually runs over time. There's nothing in the pack about that, which I find bizarre. Like, that is absolutely strange. That doesn't make any sense. This isn't a problem in any other event. And this is where I want to talk about other events. So like, if you play in America, like Frontline Gaming has the card system. So you get a yellow card for a warning, and then if you get a second yellow card, it'll go to a red card, and you basically get usually dejected from the event. Or you can get given a red card straight away if you are very egregious with your rules breaking. Now, the issue with the card system is it's not used too regularly in terms of even at FLG events and other events that use cards. And there are instances of players who have been like repeatedly breaking the rules who don't get red carded. But regardless, it is established in their packs what happens. Now, when I was speaking to, obviously, other TOs and who run other events, either in America or in the UK, obviously, because I know them, it's a bit biased, but they were like, yeah, if game 1, they would have gone like, nah, that's a bit sus. That's a bit sus. A game, like the second time it happens, they'd be like, okay, this is actually an active problem now. We're probably going to give you a yellow card, or they would have gotten a yellow card the first instance. And then if it happened again, ejected from the event, like red card. You have had too many warnings. Because like the issue with my game, if it was just my game, I would go like, okay, you know, there are players don't always get along, and you're going to have the game where you just don't get along with someone. But because it had happened in 2 to 3 other games he had played and then went on to happen in another game, I think it's more than just like, oh, it was just a one-off game with John. Like, I think it's way more than that. And the problem is there's just no, like, it's because nothing was communicated to us, at least if as the players, we got some kind of communication. Now they don't have to tell us, oh yeah, we're gonna do this to the player, we're gonna get rid of that. If they just came back to us and go like, okay, we've heard your complaints and we're gonna follow this as per the pack, or we're gonna do this, or like we are handling the matter now and we appreciate you raising your concerns. Like they already told us they did appreciate us raising our concerns and they understood where we were coming from, but we just got no feedback from that, and like none of this is covered in the pack. Like that really, really should have been covered. I understand it's the World Championships for Warhammer and like they really want everyone to go in there with a positive mindset and have a good time. And in an ideal world and from the majority of games, did what happened and what should happen. But as I said, you know, with the person I played, there was a clear break of the code of conduct. As I said, either terrible sportsmanship or at worst cheating. And like, from our end as the players, nothing happened. So if they just told us, like, you know, we are properly managing your concerns and we've taken measures to like police this player or do whatever, that would have been fine if we just got some form of feedback. But we got nothing official, which was the biggest issue. And in our eyes, it still looks like that player got away with everything. And, you know, there were rumors about like it was like on lack of sleep and jet lag, but, you know, I had the same level of sleep. I didn't act that way, and so did some other players. But it's just disappointing in the pack. There's nothing to cover this. There's nothing at the World Championships of Warhammer. So it kind of feels like you could turn up to the World Championships of Warhammer and, you know, basically be a horrible opponent, and most likely nothing will happen to you in terms of like active punishments. Now, when I was talking to other people, they said it was a good point now to reference what happened in, I believe, the US Open Tacoma 2024, because there was a player who was using orcs and then running Gazcall in a transport, in a battle wagon. But the battle wagon had certain upgrades which prevented Gazcall from fitting in there, but that was only identified at round 7 in the shadow round. So for the first 2 days and the first 6 rounds, he'd been doing that. And all they gave him after that was, like, he had to put Gazcall in the back of, like, in the deployment zone, and he got a 10-point penalty. So the issue is 40k is on a 100-point scale, so a 10-point scale is nothing. So he ended up winning that game, and then I think he either won the event or came second, but they didn't cover the instances where he admitted like he'd done it through round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and he was halfway through round 7 when he was caught. So he had like 7 games where he'd affected players and only really got penalized-ish in game 7. Like now, if you're from Kill Team, it's like you're doing something incorrectly, you've done it for several rounds, you're finally caught, you know, and they give you like a 2-point deduction or a 1-point deduction from your victory points. That's the closest comparison I can get to Kill Team, which is effectively nothing. And I believe from who I spoke to, they didn't think he would then go on to win / do as well as he did. And because that person did, because of the community feedback, because this is where it becomes contentious, but basically apparently not only was this player like misleading about how Gazcall worked at that time, but was apparently like misleading about several rules in their faction. They then ended up like just giving their ticket, because they want a golden ticket to Worlds with a flight. So they ended up rescinding all of that. But it's like, the reason I bring this up, because there's very little guidelines and, you know, past actions that show people getting punished for either, as I said, egregious sportsmanship or just like cheating. So like winding this back to what I experienced, maybe the judges dealt a punishment to this player who had multiple games of issues. But we weren't erased to what was happened. And if there was any kind of punishment, it looks like nothing happened. And that's why they wanted me to refer to the Tacoma incident, because it's very similar, but not exactly the same. But just shows, at least when it comes to the US side of events, there's not a great consistency when it comes to dealing with, you know, bad players, shall we say. Because like the whole goal of this video isn't just to like call out that player, it's because I had a really bad experience, so did several people in my pod, and we did everything we could as players to manage the situation, and we escalated it, and we think Games Workshop could do a lot better for the future, because it would be really bad if something similar happened again next year. So what I liked about the event, I actually generally, apart from my bad experience, I really enjoyed the World Championships of Warhammer. I think it's a great thing that it does happen. I really like the organization behind it. I love that I get to play for my country. That is really cool. Getting to play for either Wales or the Philippines really means a lot to me. Like like my family was so happy when they found out I was representing Philippines this year. So like all my family in the Philippines and the UK was super happy. Like I made it onto Warcom like 2 days in a row. Like I was on there with the flag. And I went even up to the award ceremony with my flag, and like they loved it. I was like the only one. I was the first one to go up with a flag, and I'm like, you came up with a flag and a pole, like on a flagpole? I was like, Filipinos represent, boy. So like, you know, that was really cool. As I said, I got to meet so many cool players. Like I met so many nice people. It was great. I get to see people I never would play normally, either from like different parts of America, Europe, like all over the world. It was so cool meeting so many kinds of different people I'd never get to play. And as I said, 99% of players were amazing. It was so much fun. And yeah, it was just really good. I'm happy it runs every year, and I'm just shocked Games Workshop run it to this day. It's a really great event, and I'm happy it keeps running. I would love to see this run for many years. I think it's a great thing. It's a really unique way to play Warhammer. And yeah, you know, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I even like the pod system and then how it brackets out. I think that's a really unique thing, because you could just make it one big event, but then it wouldn't feel unique, right? I like the uniqueness of the format and just everyone there. It was so great. Like we're all in one room. You get to hang out with 40k players, Sigmar players, even Underworld players. You know, there's a lot of intermingling, and yeah, it's just really nice that you're not really playing for yourself. You're generally playing for your country, which is really cool. Now, as for the things I didn't like, I'm sorry, people from Atlanta. I'm still not a fan of Atlanta. This year was weird because normally it's like 2 weeks before, it was like the week before Thanksgiving. This was 2 weeks before. So this time it's like we landed, it was very hot, like 30 degrees. Then it started raining. And then on the last 2 days, it was like 3 degrees Celsius. And I was like, what's going on? What is going on with this weather? I packed for cold, and it's gone from boiling hot to sub-zero. Like, it's crazy. But also the area just isn't great, but they're aware of this. I believe we're moving somewhere next year. I think it's either going to be next year is the last year at Atlanta, or they're going to move somewhere else. If they move somewhere else, that'd be great. I think if they do move somewhere else, I'd like a new venue every year, just because that would be nice and variable. For what else they need to improve on, please let Kill Team be either 2-hour games with a clock or 2.5 hour with no clock. I don't think we need the 3-hour rounds. The 3-hour rounds are too long. Me and several opponents actually we found we were playing 2-hour games in a 3-hour time frame. And you know, people may go like, oh, you just play slower. But when you spend the year aiming to play under 2 hours, it's very difficult to suddenly go, just play for 3 or longer. It's very hard to just like suddenly switch that. And by the end of the event, I did adapt, but it's not something I enjoy because now I have to quickly unlearn it. And a lot of players were like, yeah, either make it 2 hours, so it's like standard Kill Team with clocks, or just 2.5 hours with no clock. So just dice down after 2.5 hours, or give some overtime into lunch, because with 2.5 hours, no one should be finishing, right? Like no one should be overrunning. So the fact we had games go to 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5 hours wasn't really acceptable. And yeah, it would make people acknowledge the event more on the kill team side, just because 3-hour rounds are very, very different kill team. Then also, as I said, the pack needs to include like actual what's going to happen if you break the rules, because in the pack, there's nothing that happens from what on the player end. Like they may have managed this all internally and like done internal disciplinaries for what happened with our games, but from the pack, it looks like there's no real punishment if you go up to the World Championships of Warhammer and aim to like break all the rules. We can't really see what happens, which is strange because, you know, other events have like a yellow card system, red card system, or like covering what happens if you repeatedly break the rules, from bad sportsmanship to either taking game losses or being ejected from the event. None of that's covered there. So that would be nice if that was covered. And then also, while I do like the event format, I'm hoping for next year they seed the pods better. But also, if you don't make top 16 on the date Saturday and Sunday, I would like it if players could do something else, because personally, from everyone I chatted to who didn't make top 16, this year we couldn't change our teams, so we couldn't like mess around and have fun. So we were kind of just like, oh, we have to play our games, but we can't change our teams, so we have to play 4 games. And we're like, oh, they'll add to your country, and like, okay, but there are players, you know, in the top 16 who will provide more points than we ever could in the pools. So what are we exactly doing? It felt kind of like we just were pointless. And I know, you know, our games do apply to country points, which is still incredibly unclear. Like I never got, I've been to 4 World Championships, never understood the country point scoring system, and it's just not clear. And then it's just kind of like most of us were just not taking it seriously. Some people were taking it very seriously, but we were just kind of like, technically what we're doing, nothing matters. So we could just like have the weekend off and go do something else, you know? Like, so, because at the moment, the structure on the Saturday and Sunday is very bad if you don't get into top 16, because you could just throw your games. Like I got a silver coin for winning my 4 games, which was nice. But I was like, technically I got a better gold coin for attending the event. It's very confusing. So those are my main things. So for the video overview, this has gone very long. I apologize. If you've listened to all of this, I appreciate it. My goal for this video is not to just like, well, it's not really aimed at like calling out the person I played. It's more so, I had a very bad experience that did sour my overall experience with the event. I am also personally affected because it did prevent me getting to top 16, which then prevented me from winning number 1 in ITC. So only by 0.9 points. I lost to Dan, and I had to, like, you know, I could tell Dan didn't feel great about what happened. I was like, look, it's not your fault, it's just how it happened, right? But it does mean I came 3rd last year, 2nd this year. So now I have to get number 1, like to get the trifecta. So I got a big glass trophy for that. But it's more so just highlighting that like me and several players had a very bad experience with one player. My game wasn't the first instance. Like if my game was the first instance, I would have been like, just like some kind of clash or one-off, fine, that's cool. But there were several instances, well, 3 instances of having it before my game, then another instance after my game. And as the players, we escalated everything properly and we found nothing was done. Now, the issue is, I forgot to mention this during the video, a lot of players did not raise issues they had with the judges until like after the game, like an hour, half an hour after. If you have an issue with the opponent, please raise it to the judges when it happens. I was even guilty of this in one of my games. Like I should have raised stuff earlier. Not in that game, but in another game. Like that was my own fault, right? And I get where the judges are like, look, we get called like an hour past where the stuff happened. We can only call what we can see. So like if you have an issue with someone, always remember to escalate it early and promptly. Because if you let it spiral out, it does get very difficult to actually record the facts. Because judges aren't psychic. They can't tell what you're thinking. But yeah, we would have just like some communication, even if they told us after we made our formal complaint, like, oh yeah, something's to be done. Because if Games Workshop had done something because of our concerns and what we raised, I wouldn't have had to redo my video, right? This was just going to be a video log of me talking about 10 games and then me talking about my awards at the end. Now I've had to like restructure this video. I've had to like actually write it out. I've gone to people for advice because my thing is I want it to be like constructive, like not like, oh, they cheated, they did this. I want it to be like, I had a really bad experience. There's no framework for what happens at the World Championship of Warhammer when you break these rules. And I would like Games Workshop to learn and improve from them and have something established because, you know, people pay a lot of money. I paid a lot of money to go. I paid a lot of money playing all year for ITC, all that kind of stuff, you know? And it's not about who pays the most, but it's like me and everyone in my pod all came to have a good time and we had our experiences soured. Like, nothing was really done. And the more we read the pack, the more concerning it gets because there's no clear element for what happens when you get someone who's just a bad apple who breaks the rules, you know, from sportsmanship, like there's to worse. So we just like something learned from there. Because as I said, you know, the World Championships was really cool. I loved the award ceremony. That was great. Like even the opening ceremony was pretty cool. People like, you know, asking why I was in Poland, and I was like, look, there's a long queue. It's just me from the Philippines and 2 other guys. I had to run all the way around. But it was all cool. Like, as I said, meeting people was great. I met so many nice people. Like, I'll shout out to like Ola and Ben, like they're lovely people. I met so many cool people. It's just like, it was really nice. Even people playing the narrative came over and said hi. So there's a lot of cool experiences there. It's just a shame I had a really bad experience. You know, because we did joke, you know, there's always been something that's happened at the World Championships every year. So the first one, New Mexico, what happened is people tried to pretend it doesn't happen, but New Mexico was the first Worlds and me and 8 other people were there. So I've been to 4 Worlds in a row, along with a few other people. Then when was it? 2023, we had the forbidden top 8 reset where something happened. Then last year we had the debacle with top 16 not being locked in, which they did fix this year. So you could have the scenario where you're only playing the top 16 players, but then you finish below people outside of the top 16. So we had someone in the top 16 finish 56th, and then someone finished like 30th. So they fixed that. And then this year, obviously, what happened in my game and my pod. I know there are other instances, but as I said, that's for those people to raise if they wish. And I did feed it back if people are asking in the official feedback form. I was very emotional at the time, but I did feed it back. And this is also extra feedback. And as I said, we did everything we could. But this is the problem, because I'm going to sound like a massive hypocrite, because I'm still going to go next year, which kind of be like, oh, John, you've had like several bad experiences and you're still going. And I was like, yeah, because like the thing is, I still enjoy the event overall, and I really enjoy the players and people I meet. It's really nice. Even chatting to the GW staff, they're all really friendly, and like there's just a laugh to be around. Like could just have a quick laugh with them, and they're all great. So like even though I did have a bad time again, it's just really nice meeting so many people, and that's what I love about the World Championships. Like I don't want this to stop. I just want Games Workshop to improve on it. I would, because like that's why I'm not going to do anything clickbait. Because as I said, if I wanted just to make this a clickbait drama video, I'd have like a clickbait title. It would be like 15-minute, 20-minute video dedicated only to what happened, not covering everything else. Like, you know, they even did like ITC, so I got best team again for Kel team. So we got it 2 years in a row. As I said, I came second in ITC, so now I've got the 3rd place and 2nd place trophy. So now I just need 1st place. It was really fun, you know, it was really cool. Even on the painting, I got a 76 or 78. And I think the highest you could get was 85, and the baseline standard was 70 for showcase. So I was really happy with how my hobby went off. You know, what was really cool, everyone came up to me and basically said like, when they played me, they hated my team. Everyone hated Canoptic, which I was like, fine. But they said like me as a player, I was really good, clear and friendly, and they really enjoyed that. And I was like, that's great. That's what I strive to be as a player. So even though I was playing something completely toxic and dumb, everyone enjoyed me, which was good. And you know, they appreciated how clean I was, making the board state clear, which is just how I like to play as a player. So I felt really confident in how I did. And yeah, that was cool. I just got to see my friends. It was so nice. Like we got proper Southern Atlantan breakfast. It was really nice. Got chicken and waffles. I'm so American. But yeah, So that's pretty much it. That's the we're at the outro now. Please remember to like and subscribe if you've listened to this hour-long video. Remember, I've got Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, and a affiliate code on games, and a affiliate discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll just quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crew, I have Hardy, Vadim, Alexis, Alex, Marshall, the Houston Toad, Dan, Amorphium, Draken, Fangzu, Lucas, Graham, Tom, Mr. Meatwad, Dada Goldens, Nix, Super Cow, and then for my veterans of the crew, I have Yiguang and Rolling Zero. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, I'll have more videos after this. I got a bit sick. I'm still a bit sick. It's nothing too much like when I came back from LVO. This time I just have a minor case of just like the sniffles, so I'm okay. But I just needed to take time doing for this video. I'd like to thank all my friends and people who helped me. So not just at the event, because I got very upset. I got very upset after. I've cooled down, and they also helped me with the structuring of this video. As I said, the important thing for me with this video is not to cause drama. It's for Games Workshop to improve and learn upon, and just give some more structure at their events for what happens when their rules get broken, and better communication. It's not about singling out that person. As I said, didn't talk about their faction or who they were. Like you really have to trawl to find out who they are, and it's not the goal of this video to point them out. I did have a bad experience, so I feel like I do have to talk about it, but I am upset with how it impacted me. But I'm more upset with how Games Workshop handled it, because as I said, if there was some kind of like proper communication as to what was going to be done and something was done, I wouldn't need to do this video. I would have just, as I said, done my normal vlog. But otherwise, yeah, I've got another video coming. Now there'll be 2 videos this week, because this was going to be last week's video. So I've got 2 videos this week, and then I fly to America again. So I'm trying to like get all my videos done before you get to see the egg again. But remember, no matter what happens at the World Championships of Warhammer, you can always win as long as you can roll a crit.